Hello and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 158. I'm your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is
James Seelig.
I am COVID negative now. I feel pretty much the same as I was before, completely fine, and just have a lingering cough that's just kind of like annoying every now and again, but that's about it. You might even get a chance to hear it on the show. We'll see how it goes, and it could be here for anywhere from a couple weeks to a few months. Who knows?
Till forever, maybe.
Oh boy, yeah, just like that
Yeah.
wasn't actually it. That was a fake one, guys.
No, at least like it was just a mild case for you, so could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been much worse, of course. But yeah, this is Sutro Side Talk. We're back again. We talk what we've been watching, what we've been playing, and select news here and there when we have something to talk about. This week we do not, but what we do have is some gaming talk that we're finally going to get back to 3 months later when it was originally planned to be 1 month later, but shit happened. So if you guys remember, we did the Destiny to the Witch Queen expansion part 1 episode, and we had Andreas on and everything else, and it was great, and we're like, we'll be back in like a month.
Talked about it for like 2 hours.
It was like in April, and I'm like, yeah, we'll do it end of May or sometime in June. Well, it's July now, and mid-July at this point, so we kind of came in late.
The year's already more than half over. That's fucking crazy.
Don't remind me. We also have the fact that and Andreas can't make it. He has other work to do, and what little free time he has doesn't need to be here. It's okay. Guy's got a lot of work, and otherwise it'll just be the two of us. Maybe we'll eventually get someone else to fill in as an extra seat for Destiny, since we'll always probably talk at least, like I said, 3 to 4 episodes a year. We'll probably be either dedicated or at least have inclusion of a Destiny season in it. Though I think the expansion ones will be the big episodes, and then the seasonal will be like just part of an episode, more likely.
It's crazy that Bungie can keep this game going like consistently to the point where we can have like multiple entire episodes each year just on like what's happening in Destiny.
Yeah. And because we don't really have news, and I think this will go by faster than the last episode because of 2 things. One, I think we got a lot of the main stuff out of the way, like the story and the previous season as well and whatnot. There was also 3 of us, and we were putting in a lot of thought into that. Andreas was really helping out there with a lot of interesting thoughts. So I think this will go faster, but we'll go through this time the 30th anniversary that we had missed last time. We'll also go through certain aspects of Witch Queen that we did not cover, which is pretty much covering Void 3.0. I think I called it 2.0 last time. I was incorrect. It was 3.0. The raid, or at least talk somewhat about it. The preservation mission, which is also kind of an add-on of the raid a little bit. It'll probably take the least amount of time to talk about. The investigation board, the exotic weapons, then Season of the Risen, which came in hand with the expansion, followed by just kind of what we're doing now in Destiny, or maybe not doing now in Destiny, or lack thereof Destiny. We'll get to that.
I feel like kind of bad about this episode because I feel like I didn't do my homework, because there's a lot that we're going to be talking about that I still haven't gotten to yet, but I'm just like, it's been too long. Just tell me.
I'm like, have you done anything for this season? You're like, I still missed stuff from last season.
I'm like, I watched videos on people doing it, I swear.
Yeah, so
we'll get to it.
Do obviously I won't hold back, even if certain people haven't gotten through parts.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's for me, like the fun of playing Destiny is like there's a little bit of that, seeing a raid firsthand or like seeing a dungeon firsthand for the first time. But for me, it's more just like it's just really fun to play. So I don't really care about there being spoilers on certain things like the dungeon at this point. I just like it still would be fun to play at some point if I ever make time to do it.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go right into it. I'm going to save other game talk a little bit for when we're talking about what we're doing now in Destiny anyway, because it'll kind of go hand in hand with it, if anything. But, starting off here, we have the 30th anniversary that had come out. And the interesting part about it was like a whole separate thing. It was separate from the season pass. It was just its own thing entirely. and it cost like $30.
Yep.
And a lot of people were like, what the fuck? Why is this so much? Like,
it's also really unclear like how long it was going to last or whatever.
Yeah. Which, it's still here. At first, you're thinking like, well, what's the duration it's going to be going on? Because it launched a season before Witch Queen. Like this happened during Season of the Lost that it came
Some
in.
people like I was one of the people that was like, is it gonna go away with Witch Queen? Because like a lot of stuff is going away with when Witch Queen shows up. So that was part of the confusion.
Yeah. What I think is it's gonna stay for the very minimum is 1 year. But what I think is going to happen is it will be around as long as the expansions are around. So let's say it came after Beyond Light. Right now, we just lost Forsaken. That's gone. We still have Shadowkeep and Beyond Light. So I think Shadowkeep might lose next year. I'm not too sure. At the same time, I don't think they're going to take the moon away, but they might take away the story for that. I'm not sure.
That'd
anyway,
be weird.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's something we could talk about later, but I think if that goes, we'd still have another year before Beyond Light goes, and then another year before 30th anniversary goes. I think 30th anniversary would leave around the same time the Witch Queen goes out of the system.
I could see
they
that.
do take it away. So I'm pretty sure it'll be here to stay for a while, even though now it doesn't drop pinnacles anymore for the dungeon, which fucking sucks, but whatever. Pay $30 for that shit. It comes with a lot of stuff. So I guess we'll start with the activity. First is Dares of Eternity, which is very interesting. It's like a game show that Xur hosts.
Yeah, I love it. I love that it's like a cheesy game show that's being put on what seems like for the enjoyment of the 9.
Yeah.
And yeah, Xur is like, he seems to be aware that he's not going to remember any of it. But he's just like, yeah, whatever, I have to do it anyway. So just like enjoy it, I guess.
He's pretty much, he tells the player like, enjoy this for me, remember for me, for unfortunately I will not be able to, and I've really enjoyed. He actually said, I think in one portion he does say like, I've really had a lot of fun doing this, and it's gonna suck that I don't get to remember this. It was kind of fucked up when you really read into it.
Xur is like one of the most interesting and sad characters in Destiny, possibly, because he's like literally a slave to the 9, and he doesn't seem to have any free will of his own. And like, I don't know how that's gonna end for him, or if it will. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny because you still have Xur in 2 locations simultaneously. Like you'll have him there, and then on the weekends he'll be in wherever the fuck when you get certain exotics from him. But you have Xur, you have Star Horse, who is this cosmic horse who pretty much is like, and it's great. Actually, it's like ridiculous. It's like the horse demands you do this shit, and then the horse will be like, and then
he like speaks for the horse.
Yeah, and the horse just like neighs a lot, and for a fact that it was someone in Bungie that made that sound effect, that did that horse sound. And I'm like, the first thought would be that another sound designer made that sound, or they found someone in the studio that was just like, hey, what does your horse sound like? Or they knew someone that could do a great horse impression, and that's just kind of what happened. Because I just know they wouldn't go get an actor for that. It was someone in the studio that made that sound, and it's fantastic. They also made a great Star Horse shirt that I don't remember if I bought or not, because it looks like a fucking Iron Maiden concert t-shirt.
Yeah, I remember that. It looks
it's amazing.
Yeah, like an 80s rock album cover.
Yeah,
it looks so cool.
So fucking good.
Plus, I just find Dares fun to play too.
So Dares is interesting. It's got 3 different phases in it.
Unless you play as much as you did.
Yeah. Oh my fucking god, the amount I played. I hate, honestly, by the end of it, I fucking hated that mode. But it's not the developer's fault or anything like that. Well, actually, no, it is. But
a little bit. I mean,
no, it is. The ranking system they have for Dares is very, very slowly. I think they took away bounty XP. So when you do bounties, they only give it to like your season pass and your overall level and whatnot, but it doesn't affect your, let's say if it's a Dares bounty or one of the Xur's bounties from that location, it doesn't help you with the rank you're getting with Xur for doing specifically only Dares. And it kind of sucks.
Yeah, the bounties were for like more loot-based stuff from what I remember. It's been a while.
So you're stuck doing potentially, at the very least, I think, if I remember correctly, at the very least 80 or so dare runs. And that can get very exhausting, like incredibly exhausting. You're doing it over and over and over and over.
Well, especially since you mentioned you get more experience out of it, or more rank experience if you don't break your streak.
Yeah,
And
you
they
have to
don't
just
tell
keep
you that
doing it.
either, which that personally frustrates me.
Yeah, there's like the if you know, like you do Crucible or Gambit or something, you see the little streak thing that
Yeah, they have win
happens when you
streak stuff.
win. For others that aren't necessarily competitive, like strikes and dares and things like that, there are still streaks, but it's more of a playing the activity streak. And when you switch off to another activity that doesn't, like, the only ones that don't counter is when you go to like the tower or the helm. But I believe if you go to another planet or you do another activity, you break your streak because you're doing something else. And then you have to go back to 0 and then work your way up, which, you know, the higher streak you have, the more XP you're getting for that specific vendor. So for Zerg, getting to level 16 is a very, very, very torturous thing to do. Luckily, it's not like a season lock thing. You could do it as much as you want and then go into the next season and keep going. The reason you do this, though, is because there is an exotic sidearm you have, which I want to save the weapons for after talking. Well, actually, I'll talk about the weapons now, actually. So,
all right, Forerunner? Was it Forerunner you get from
yeah.
him?
So the whole thing with the 30th anniversary, I'll get back to dares in just a second, but you get all these weapons that are themed after games that Bungie has made. And that's actually a really cool thing. You know, it's...
Dude, the battle rifle and the hand cannon are my fucking favorite.
You have a lot of Halo weapons. You have marathon weapons. It's just really fun. And other things like you have themed ships and sparrows and whatnot. Some I don't even recognize because I never really played marathon. So I'm like, I don't know what this is.
I remember playing marathon very briefly, or like a demo of it when it came to Xbox Live on 360 years ago. But I remember being like, oh, so it's like Doom, sort of, but not Doom. Okay. So then I kind of bounced off of it.
So you have, I guess you have all these different weapons and whatnot. And the coolest ones, you know, are like the pulse rifle. It's the BXR. It's supposed to be the battle rifle from Halo. It's really fucking good. It's a great, I think, a solar...
Instantly became one of my favorite battle rifles in this game.
Yeah, it's a solar battle rifle. It's fantastic. There are other weapons, like instead of the needler, you have
pulse rifle, not battle rifle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's called the battle. You know,
yeah,
in Halo, it's battle
just
rifle.
Yeah.
But instead of the needler, you have shit. What was it? I can't remember what they had instead of the... I think it was either the needler or the carbine. I think they had a you know, like
they did have a carbine, like the looking
instead
one.
It was a trace rifle, which was really cool. Yeah, it's a trace rifle, and it worked really well. Maybe they didn't have the needler. I don't actually remember anymore, but they had two swords that were supposed to be like the...
No, they already had the needler. It's Telesto.
Oh god, don't remind me. But there's the half truths and full truth. I think it was either half truths and half lies, or half truth and full truth. And it's a purple and a white energy sword. It's supposed to be like the of course, elite swords that you get. And I don't remember which one's which. I think half truth, one of them had a specific modifier called like eagle something. And what it does is it'll allow your sword to thrust you forward at a ridiculous length, to the point where basically
energy sword charge.
It's no longer called half truths or full truth, whatever the name was. It is instead now called funny sword by people and people in my clan and others. They just call it funny sword. And that sword is a very, very painful sword because you can be using that fucking sword. And we were using it for I think one of my clanmates was using it we were trying to do a flawless Garden of Salvation run. I hadn't played Gardens of Salvation in so long because it's just an older raid I don't touch. I met my clan quota for it, so I'm like, oh, I'm not going to touch this. I have like, you know, a shit ton of clears for it. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I have everything I've ever needed for it. There's literally nothing I want from it at this point. And we go on, and I'm like, I'll do the flawless run. I'll take the shaders. Like, that's cool. And when we're doing it, we every now and again will wipe from something stupid and we'll go back. And one of my clanmates is like, you know what? I'll just put on funny sword in the beginning. This man puts on funny sword. He thrusts forward and he fucking dies because he hits a wall and just kills himself.
Wait, it can kill yourself? It can kill
Yes,
you?
yes, you can die from like just damage of
That's so
basically
funny.
blasting
So
forward.
the physics,
Mhm.
like the Destiny physics, just like literally rocket propel you fast enough.
We were
to
stuck in the very first easy phase of Garden. I mean, the entirety of Garden is kind of pretty fucking easy at this point. We were stuck there for like 2 hours in the first area.
Oh my god, why?
Because he kept killing himself with funny sword.
He
And at
just
first it
refused
was
to take it
funny.
off?
And yeah, he refused to take it off. And I think we literally gave up. Something happened. We got through at a certain point, and then someone died. You know, when someone dies in the flawless run, you just start over. So
Yeah, because
I
apparently that still
remember
counts.
he literally was like, I won't do it if I don't get to use funny sword. And we are just like, dude, why are you being are you being a piece of shit about this? I won't say who it is. He knows who it is. No one in my classmates listens to it, so it's okay. But it was just like the worst. And I came to hate that sword. Even if it's got the cool fucking thrust, I'm like, that thrust is nothing but bad luck, and it just causes unnecessary death that I don't want to deal with. But yeah, there's that sword. And then the main gun is Forerunner, which is a sidearm that is the Halo handgun.
Yeah, the Magnum.
Yeah, Halo Magnum from
like one of the
Combat
greatest
Evolved.
guns in all of video game history, depending on who you ask.
It is a Magnum with a scope on it, and it's fucking amazing. And it's actually hilarious because I think Bungie got this gun and then 343 couldn't use it. Because if you look in Halo Infinite, you do not have the Magnum in that game. You have some other shitty pistol. I don't remember what the fuck it was, but there is no Magnum there. And I'm like, dude, did Bungie take the pistol away? And now they have the Magnum and only they have it? Because it's basic. It is exactly the Halo gun. Exactly how it is.
Oh yeah, it's so perfect. It's like, it's funny because you could probably expect that Bungie, who built it like the first time, they might be able to figure out how to rebuild it in another game. But they did it so well that it literally feels like they just ripped it straight out of Halo, put it into Destiny. And it sounds right. It feels right. The fact that it's like exotic ability is like extra headshot damage. It does a shit ton of damage too.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it, it's a kinetic weapon, but it takes special ammo. It's the only sidearm that takes special ammo, which is very interesting because that otherwise it's OP. And because the whole thing now is if you're using just the white ammo, the primary ammo, it is unlimited. Like you don't have to worry about getting it anymore. That was like a thing they changed eventually. I think it would they changed it within Destiny 2 because there was a while you could still run out of ammo. I think it was like literally
within the last couple seasons or something.
Yeah, you could run out of ammo whenever you fucking gun. That was a world. But it works really well. I love the shit out of it. But there was like a catalyst that you don't actually really need. I can't even remember what the catalyst does anymore at this point. But the catalyst was achievable through Xur's rank tree, ranking up with him. And you could get it pretty much at your reset. When you can reset Xur's reputation, you could get the catalyst. It was like right before a reset or something like that. One little rank below it, but basically rank 16. And that is why myself and many others chose to kill themselves churning out runs into dares and like just running dares over and over and over. And like I said, dares is interesting. It's got 3 phases. This first one is like, oh, you spin the wheel, you find out what enemies you got. Is it Taken, Cabal, Hive, Fallen, Vex? You don't really know, and it's going to change for each one. And phase 2 is like the same thing, but it's like inside a different area. And to go from area to area, there's actually like an obstacle course you have to run through. And you can either get to the high point and you like gain Star Horse's favor running through it, or you get the low point. You still get stuff, but you're like, you're a loser. You didn't get the right thing. And there's 2 obstacle courses. There's also like a guess the right door you're going to go through. And that door will tell you which enemy you're facing. Like, oh, if you go through this door, it's going to take you to this completely different area that, sorry, has a Vex boss. This one will have a Hive boss, which is actually fucking Crota. And this one will have a Cabal boss. Those are usually the 3 final bosses. that you can shoot that will basically be chosen, and they, I believe, rotate weekly if it was like the legend version. But I think you could get different ones if it was just regular. But you would guess the door, and if you're wrong, it just goes like wah wah wah, and it has like a little cloud above you. And if you get it right, it's like Star Horse's
Yeah, I
favorite.
vaguely
Go
remember like
times.
you could vote, like each person could vote on who they think the
It
what the
wasn't
next
voting; it was
enemies are going to be.
guessing.
Huh.
So you could be the one guy in one circle and the majority's in
Yeah.
another, and you get it right. They all got it wrong. Um, so it doesn't really matter. It's as long as you stand in one of the three, you'll see which one you get. But it doesn't matter how many are on a platform at all. All six of you could be on one platform, all lose or all win. It just is kind of random like that. Overall, the activity is really fun until you do it to death, and then you just get tired of it. But that's like anything else in this world.
Yeah.
Uh, I
You
do
think
like it.
maybe like they expected you to do all this over the course of like a year or maybe two, and that's why you maybe got more burnt out than they were hoping
A lot of
on
people
it?
got that catalyst way before I did, so it's like a
Well,
whole
that's the
thing
thing is
there.
like people are gonna definitely rush to like get everything they can as fast as they can, but like Bungie might not have meant like when they set it to like what you say like 80 some odd
Yeah,
rounds of dares you might have to do for this catalyst.
pretty
They might
much.
have been like, well, if we want people to do this over a year, like that's not that bad. That's like maybe one or two a week.
Nope, it's
No, but
fucking
no one did
horrible.
that.
Yeah, it's but the cool thing, it has a good purpose now though, even though it's like I don't plan on playing it anymore at all. There's no point for me to play it. I literally told people I'm like I'm never touching this ever
Mhm.
again. But there was an area in the Shattered Throne dungeon called Thrallway, and it was like an infinite spawn of the Shadow Thrall, and that's where people would farm exotic kills to get their catalyst finish, to masterwork their
Mm.
catalysts. And I think they fixed it so now you can't do that anymore. And what I think, honestly, with the amount of enemies and the amount of ammo boxes you get that pretty much replenish your ammo nonstop, is now dares is your place to masterwork weapons.
Hmm. Okay, so
Um,
at least there's like a use for it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
You
if
could
you've
take
like
your,
gotten everything out of it technically.
yeah, if you got your catalyst for your exotic and you're trying to masterwork it, go to Dares of Eternity, and you will pretty much be blasting through it, and you'll keep getting more ammo, even if it's fucking heavy. You'll keep getting ammo for it, and you'll get that masterwork in no time. It's honestly pretty great. That's the when I was doing those, I definitely didn't care as much that I was like grinding through dares as much, just because I'm like, well, at least I'm getting these masterworks out of the way. That's easier,
Right.
if anything. Then there's the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, which also gives you the Galahorn, which is really cool. And with the Galahorn, I think you get the catalyst from doing the master version of Grasp. And that'll give you like, I think, an extra, I forget what it gives you, I think the wolf pack rounds or something. I don't remember anymore. It's big, guys. This is why it's been so long. I was hoping to do this like in the first part for 30th anniversary, but we did not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, for Grasp, though, the cool thing about this is it's literally a Goonies dungeon. They put it in the loot cave, and you just go in. There's like a hole through it, and once you go through, you'll find like this whole fucking cool underground layer that you're going through parts of, and it's like, you know, part of it's the Cosmodrome, so you're doing like Cosmodrome areas,
Yeah, it's
and you're
supposed to be like a treasure hunt or something, right?
yes, it's Wilhelm, the Treasure of Wilhelm 4. It's like a pirate treasure. It's really cool. You get like all of his audio logs, and it starts with like me and my crew, and this is another this is another guardian. He's like, me and my crew are here to get the treasure. And by the end of it, he's like, fuck all of you. This is my treasure. I'm gonna get it till I die. And then like he, you know, he ends up dying and everything else. But you go through all these different portions. There's really great stuff that are callbacks to just movies and whatnot. The main thing is the Goonies, where it's like you're finding the pirate treasure hidden in a cave, and then there's all these different
Yeah, I did
traps.
see one of the things they showed off in like the advertisements for this expansion, or it's not exactly an expansion, but the DLC was like a skull cave looking thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. there's like a crystals cave. There's a whole sparrow area where it's actually pretty hard. It's like I don't want to say on par, but it's like in sync with like the
Last City. Oh,
Scourge of the
what was it?
Past.
That was the
Yeah,
one.
it's similar to Scourge of the Past. So you're like doing that, and then there's areas where it's spike traps that'll get you. You could pull the wrong lever, and then all of a sudden you just get killed by a fucking bunch of spikes that pop out. And the best part about this
Very Indiana
dungeon,
Jones.
yeah, well, actually, there is a portion where you're going up a ramp, and as you're getting up there, it unlocks the thing and launches a giant type of barrel that's supposed to be like a boulder down at you. And you've either not far enough where you can run back out to the side, or there's little holes on the sides you could run into really fast to avoid it. But I just remember we played it the day it came out, me and a fire team, and we kept dying to the fucking levers, and we're just like, what the fuck is happening? We're like getting killed by all these spikes, and then we get onto the ramp, and the barrel comes down when we're halfway up, and I think one of our friends was in the party chat with us, and they just hear us all simultaneously legitimately just scream. We're like, ah! There's a fucking barrel coming down, and we all die, and we're just like, what the fuck just happened? And it was so good. Like, the design for this dungeon is really, really fun. It's a really great dungeon. I liked it a lot. It's not the hardest. It's actually pretty easy. It's just like there's certain parts that are a time sink. Like there's parts, these little islands surrounding a giant thing in the sky where the treasure is. And you have to blow holes in it. And the way you blow holes in it is you have to kill these servitors, put them into the little portals, and then launch the portal, and it'll like catapult the servitor corpse into each like wall and break that wall. It's a whole fucking thing. And there's little things where you collect all these little engrams, and they'll blow up if the timer runs out on you, and you'll basically die with them. You have to deposit them on like a crystal thing, and when you get enough, it'll basically blow open the crystal or like unlock whatever you're trying to do, which is normally the first one is just trying to get through the hole in the very beginning. The second time is to damage the first boss, which is a giant ogre, and the second time is damaging the fallen captain, or pretty much like the fallen captain that is guarding the treasure you have to kill. And it's all really fun. The design of it's really cool. The layout, the way it is very puzzlish, but you literally just figure it out as you go, and it's very easy to figure out. I love that dungeon. Honestly, I'd probably run it again for fun, or do the legend version just so I can get I think you get armor with extra slots in it. So it helps out a bit for kind of what you can do. So I really did appreciate that, and I didn't really work on that. So I'm like, oh, I could go back and do that maybe. But overall, it's a really fun dungeon, and I think the dungeon alone and the different weapons you get from 30th anniversary, like the Galahorn and the Forerunner and whatnot, are all worth the price. That's $30 for this. I was very apprehensive, and then once I saw the content in it, I'm like, okay, this is worth it. It's
same.
I definitely appreciate what they've done with
I was
it.
like $30 for like extra shit, like on top of the Witch Queen and everything. Like, I don't know. And then I haven't even played the dungeon yet, and even still, I'm just like, you know what? They did obviously put like a lot of work into this, especially like for the weapons and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely worth $30, I think.
Very much so. But I think that's all we can say for now for the 30th anniversary, and we can move on to the rest of the Witch Queen stuff we left behind. Starting with Void 3.0. So they did a whole new like restructuring of Void 3.0 where it looks completely different even when you look at the full tree.
They basically made it exactly like Stasis.
Yes, everything you've seen in Stasis they have now for Void, where it's like your user main attacks. You have extra grenades now to choose from. You still have your melee to choose from, that kind of thing. And then you have what are the fragments and the aspects that you have in Stasis and whatnot. So if you already know what Stasis is, just think that for Void, and it's exactly the same. And what's really cool is each class will have their own stuff that you've already had. Now you just have all the options. But the cool thing is you go to Ikora, and she is now a vendor for Void, and I think also now Solar 3.0, which we probably won't talk about this time, but what you can do is you go there and all the class restricted aspects that you would normally find, like it was the same thing for Stasis, I think. Or actually maybe it
Yeah,
wasn't. Like you unlock
I
it all.
think.
I think certain aspects you would get that are only for, it was like the grenades and the aspects. I think no grenades and fragments, because the aspects are like the main part, fragments I think are the smaller part. But you'd go through there and it's, you know, it's locked to the class. And if you go to Ikora, let's say if I'm a hunter, I go to Ikora, she has the grenades and the fragments that are exclusive to the warlocks and the titans, and I can actually buy that now for my hunter. So all the void grenades that maybe titans and warlocks had that you've always wanted to use as a hunter but you couldn't, you can now use.
Yeah,
It's a really
that I thought was
fucking,
super fun. Cool.
it gives you so much more customization. The things that are of course still locked to a specific class are the melee ability, which, you know, for a
Yeah,
hunter for void is the smoke screen.
and obviously supers.
Yeah, and the supers themselves, so like the Night Stalker bow or the Nova bomb or the Titan shield or dome
I
bubble.
love that they added like extra melees too. Like the Titan now just you could throw a void shield.
Yeah, and
Like
the
it's
coolest thing
awesome.
I think is the fact that now hunters can use devour, which was a
Mm,
warlock thing before, where you're like, oh well, if you're doing something, just run it as a warlock because you need devour. It'll give you your health back when you melee kill something or do an ability kill on someone, and your health will automatically regenerate. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. But now that the hunter has it, you don't have to worry about that at all anymore. It's like, oh, cool, I can go stealth, invis as a hunter, and still devour people and get that health back at the same time. It is an amazing advantage to utilize. And it's even to the point now where, as a Night Stalker, using the quiver for Mobius quiver, if you put on like, you have like 3 shots of Mobius, it is more useful than Golden Gun, Celestial Nighthawk, which I never thought would happen. To the point where basically we would get into the new raid and we're just fucking Night Stalker Mobius quiver shooting him, not even using the Celestial anymore at all for boss damage or anything like that.
damn.
Yeah, that's like what it's come down to at this point, or at least it was. I don't know how it is now because I, you know, we'll talk about Solar 3.0, like I said, but I really like it. I didn't really, I unlocked everything I needed for Warlock and Titan, but I didn't really utilize it that much. You know, it's cool to have Devour on the Titan now too, and just having these cool little extras things is really fucking awesome. I think you could cloak too now with Warlocks and Titans, if I'm correct. I'm
Uh
not too sure, honestly.
I think there is a way for
Yeah,
Titan.
but I guess how do
I
you like Void 3.0?
It's literally like ever since they introduced stasis and there was so many more ways to customize your stasis subclasses than any of the other previous ones, it just felt like they made stasis so much more fun to use than the other classes and to just like experiment with and stuff like that. So I'm so happy that they started like doing the same types of systems for the other subclasses. My only complaint was that they didn't just do all 3 of them at the same time. Like, but I don't know. I'm fine with them rolling out one like
It's
upgrade
also
to
just how much development time it takes to rehaul all of that
that's
stuff.
and that's the other thing that like I understand that like it's probably not as easy just like, oh, just transfer all the same like abilities over to that like grid style. Like it's absolutely not that easy. So I get it, and I appreciate that they are taking their time and make it seems like they're making sure that it works before they put it out. And it seems like at least so far they're putting out one like subclass upgrade per season. So last season we got Void, this season we got Solar. I'm gonna assume next season we get Arc. And I just really like the amount of customization that you have on your Void subclass now. And it was like I hadn't used Void for anything but like raids for a long time because like Bubble Shield is just so useful for like damage phase and stuff like that. But now like in like whenever I was doing PvE, it was usually either Arc or Solar. And now I just used soul like void for pretty much that entire season, because I was just like constantly experimenting with like different combinations of like aspects and fragments. And then like, yeah, when I found out that Ikora could sell me even more shit, I was like, oh, there's more.
Yep.
And yeah, just like having an extra melee for the Titan, and I'm assuming the other two classes got their own extra melees as well. And like, yeah, being able to use grenades that you've never been able to use before. Just there's so many more things you can do that it makes it like actually worthwhile experimenting now, instead of just having 3 set thing like versions of void that you could do.
Yeah, and I am happy that I guess I'm happy that they did what they did, because the whole plan before this was to do 3 darkness uh elements that you would do now, starting with stasis, and then they were like, we're
which
gonna
they could
bring it
still
back.
do eventually.
No, they did say they were gonna do it. They were just like, we're gonna push it back and prioritize doing the 3.0 versions of the aspects already, the 3 like subclasses we already have. I'm pretty sure, because now we're getting these all during the seasons. We weren't sure before. We're like, are we getting Solar 3.0 during the next season? Are we going to get it to the next expansion? Now that we see it's all during the season, we're thinking like Lightfall, we're going to get the next darkness subclass then. Instead,
I can see that.
Yeah, so that's going to be really cool. And then Final Shape will get the 3rd and final one, and we'll have 6 subclasses to go through, which will be really, really fun. But yeah, I'm excited for everything we have now to look forward to more explore Solar now, and then eventually get Arc as well, which will also be really interesting too. Moving on to the raid itself. Oh my god, that is one of the best raids they've ever created, easily, by far. Or at least
I
I
like
would
that
say
Rolk seems to be like talking to you through the entire time.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if anything, it's for sure the best boss fight we've ever had in a raid. But the whole cool thing about this is it's just as we thought it would be. The raid takes place in that downed pyramid inside of Savathun's throne world. And in it, you fight the Witness's disciple, which is Rolk.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, the first disciple, who is actually trapped there by Savathun. He's been trying to get out for a while now. He's been like stuck there for a long time. And the Scorn follow him at this point. You're like, oh, they follow the Fanatic, and it's like, no, they're following Rolk right now at this point. And Rolk is part of the, I'm trying to remember what his species name is, but he is the last of his species. The darkness in him pretty much more or less wiped out his species, and it is just him now. And I think that's kind of what the disciples are. Many of the pyramid ships apparently might have someone like this, where it's like, oh, it's a disciple of the Witness, and it is the last person of that respective species is in command of that pyramid ship, and that's one is
super
Rolk's.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's like that for all pyramid ships, considering we had the one on the moon. Yeah, we've seen the one on Europa, we've seen the one on the moon, and we haven't seen anything there. It's only the Witch Queens so far that we've actually gotten that. But when you get in there, it's a really cool, like, you have different phases, and if you've seen it, you've seen it. Like, I don't want to like go through the play-by-play of this whole thing, but it's got its whole phase of like escort this ship piece that you pretty much even at public events kind of doing as well. It's a very recurring thing throughout this expansion that you'll notice. And then besides fighting the Scorn, I think if I remember correctly, you actually fight Taken as well at certain points. And there is like a puzzle area where you have to go through and get what everyone calls like the nut, or seed, the Taken orb, and the shield. And each one has a role, what they have to do. And like, there'll be knights that spawn in this area, and the people with the seed of like a seed laser, only their seed laser can take down the knight's shield and kill the knight. Just like the shield is the only thing that could take out, I forget what the shield can take out, honestly. I haven't actually done the raid in a little bit, but the shield also has its purpose. Oh no, sorry, the shield cleanses everyone, so you can use the shield. It's like the same shield that's in Vault of Glass that you have to cleanse people.
Oh yeah,
it's the same thing. So use that, cleanse everyone as they get darkness encompassing them and whatnot. And then you have the person that like the taken orb. They'll be like a taken blight somewhere or something similar to a blight, and you have to use the orb to pretty much take that out. And those three people have their roles. Some of them have to read puzzles, and there'll be like symbols. There's like a whole symbol tree you have to go through to get through certain areas. And there's a full like label of all the names now, and it's like, oh, here's thirst or drink and heart and traveler and darkness and all this shit. And once everyone like, figured it all out, there's like full charts and everything else that tell you it all. And I still need it. The picture, sorry guys, like I said, the cough's still there and talking a lot doesn't help. I still need it every now and again when I'm doing the raid, doing the puzzle, especially if I'm watching like the symbols appear and I have to call out to a teammate to be like, hey, this is the symbol, you got to go to this room or something. Look for that. Because the symbols will either symbolize like what you need to shoot next or hit next or go through next, like what building and whatnot, depending on the area you are in the raid. So it's very, very puzzle heavy, and just deciphering and using the different like symbols and everything else to your advantage, as well as like, everything's from timing, knowing what role everyone needs to have, what tools they're using when they're getting through, like I said, with those three, like the seed and orb and shield and whatnot. The first boss is actually a very powerful Scorn that was powered up by the disciple, and it's kind of like an experimented on Scorn, who has just like a backpack on him. They have to like shoot the front of him and the back of him to stun him, and then it launches these crazy little like almost like I guess I'd call them kind of like similar to the Squiddies in the Matrix, where they're just like flying things around and then they'll like come in. It's like it's like cool little like I don't know how to describe, like diamond shaped little pyramid things flying around that are trying to like kill you, and you have to like shoot them all when you take out the when you stun the boss. And in the meantime, like you have two people doing that. You have two people going around and trying to get the puzzles, and then two people doing ads and stuff. And it's a whole process you're going through. So far, I've always just volunteered being like, I'll stun the boss, we just shoot the guy's fucking front, whatever. And it's like different levels of like stairs and everything. So if you get like bumped off by the boss, you're like falling down the level, and then you're like, oh shit, I fell all the way down. I have to come all the way back up and hope that I can still help out my team, and I hope I don't screw them over because I'm like all the way down here. Well, like now one person has to leave ad control and help stun the boss or something, because if the boss gets too close, then you're pretty much dead. But when you get to damage, it's very similar to that of Callus's damage when you're fighting the robot version in the Leviathan, where you have to go from like platform to platform. Like one will light up and then it deactivates, you go to the next one and you start shooting again, same thing like that. So it's very similar, but it's really cool the way the boss traverses, and you have to kind of stop its movement as you're going through. I think it was called the Caretaker was the Scorn's name. And then eventually you get to Rolk, who is the reason why Rolk is the coolest boss is because, we've fought Oryx, we've fought Crota, we've fought Axis, we've fought Atheon and everyone else. And you know what they all do? They all kind of stand still and they just kind of shoot shit at you.
Pretty much.
Rolk will he'll fucking walk around and chase you, and he'll do like a thing where he's this giant fucking slender guy with a glaive. This is where the glaive comes from. That's where Savathun got it. Savathun stole the glaive from him and gave it to you, knowing you could do shit with it and also like help get our memory back with the glaive. It was all like pre-planned and shit.
That's cool.
So the glaive is a tool of the witness, pretty much. And you actually, I think it's called Lubre something, but the Lubre, I think is his species. There is an exotic glaive you can get. Or no, sorry, there's a legendary glaive you can. There's like 5 glaives in the expansion overall. There's the glaive you get from the campaign. There are the 3 exotic glaives you get from the investigation board quest, one for each class, just like the swords kind of. And then there's a glaive you get from it's just one of the weapons that drops in the raid at boss layer, or at the boss drop. And it's basically it's a U-sized version of the glaive that Rolk uses, because Rolk is massive and his glaive is massive, and you're just like, oh my god. But this dude's fucking walking around he'll have like a cool little arrow thing on the floor that's yellow, and it points at the direction he's about to basically do like this fucking power teleport slide to. And he'll come towards you, and if you're in the vicinity, you basically get blasted by him just by the proximity of being near him. And then like he'll walk over, try to kick you and all this shit. He has like fucking dance moves. It's kind of scary. I've described it as like if you ever watched the original SpongeBob SquarePants movie where he's singing Goofy Goober, you have Patrick as a giant Patrick, but he has like fishnets and like heel boots on, and he's like doing crazy dancing, and it's like insane. And that is basically Rolk. You are fighting giant Patrick in fucking like boots and stuff with fishnets. Yes, it is actually the same fucking thing. It's insanity, but it's really fucking cool. And he'll fly around. You can like stun parts of him that are like glowing yellow, if I remember correctly, and then you could stun the glaive too. But the thing is, like, you know, if you stun that, there's like a whole puzzle. It's like a layer to get to him. He has like a whole thing where he shoots lasers at you, and you have to like solve certain parts of these layers of like this kind of just like a full platform you're going through. And once you solve that, then you get up there with him where you're doing all this shit trying to dodge him, and he's dancing around you and doing the fucking moves and breaking it down on you and trying to break you down while he's breaking down. It really is just a dance battle, and you're just like, oh fuck. Once you get
dance
damage
off,
though,
bro.
it's like, oh, damage phase is here. And here's the issue. Damage phase is, you know, everyone's shooting him at once. He's still moving around. He's still trying to fucking kill you. So everyone's like, ah, shoot him, run away, shoot him, run away. And it's fantastic. It is the most insane boss fight we've ever had. And it's like, okay, they finally figured it out. Like, you could feel each expansion, Bungie is figuring out how to develop this better, how to make this game better, how to have better utilization of certain aspects like the bosses, like the fights, like fucking Void and other subclasses and things like that, where they're fixing things and adjusting and all that other stuff. And it really, really is actually working. And I, for one, I've said it, this is the best expansion we've ever gotten. This is the best, at least, boss fight in a raid we've ever gotten, because I think it is probably the best raid we've gotten before. I think the closest to this is maybe Wrath of the Machine, maybe, in terms of just like sheer awesomeness. Just because I love King's Fall, but I also know King's Fall also sucks at times too, and it's kind of obnoxious.
It's a very, very long.
Yeah, which we're going to be getting that, I think, like next season. So get ready for that, guys. It's coming very soon. Oh my god. You know it's not Crota, and it's not Axis, it's not Wrath. We're getting fucking King's Fall. That is coming next.
It would actually be hilarious if they brought back Fall of Crota, but literally as a strike.
I really think, honestly, Crota could be a good a 6-man dungeon. Just make that a 6-man
could do that
dungeon.
Yeah.
But honestly, at the same time, there's so many versions of just fighting Crota. You have Crota in Dares of Eternity. You actually have 3 Crotas in Dares of Eternity. You have Crota in the Nightmare Hunts. You like he's just everywhere. Crota, you can't get rid of Crota like you can't get rid of fucking Tannix, who's just like, hey guys, I'm back. It's me, Tannix. And it's like, dude, you've died like 4 times. Whereas Crota, at least they bring back, but you know Crota's already dead. Tannix literally won't die. Like, he actually keeps coming back to fuck with you more and more and more.
I so badly want Tannix to get like a ghost.
Oh my god, that's what
that'd
I'd
be
saying.
so
I'm
funny.
Like, fucking Savathun's like my best guardian, Tannix. You'll just be like, oh no, it's Tannix again.
Oh, but even funnier, like, he won't remember anything either.
Oh god, that would be fucking
so
hilarious.
Like, you pull your gun out and he'll be like, whoa, what's going on?
Guys, it's me, Tannix. No, that's fucking stupid. Oh my god. Yeah, so the raid itself is fucking awesome. It's got the exotic is a pulse rifle, which I guess we could talk about really fast right now. It's an okay pulse rifle. It's like nothing crazy, but it's called the Collective Obligation. And you know how exotic drops are for raids? They're hard to get, and people will spend
many
rounds
trying to get it.
I got it the first round.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, is this the exotic? And then they're like, you motherfucker. And I'm like, oh, I think I got the exotic. And like,
oh, was this something you wanted?
Is this the hard thing? Everyone's just like, why did you get it in the first try? And I'm like, wow, this is so much easier than Eyes of Tomorrow and Deep Stone Crypt, I'll tell you guys. Oh my god. Oh god, it was so funny. And the funny thing was I never used that pulse rifle. It's fine. It's not the best pulse rifle, I'll tell you right now. But it's okay. I honestly don't even remember that much about it, but that at least crosses one more exotic we don't have to talk about. But the rest of the raid, it's, overall this raid is really fun. Like I said, I think it's the best raid in terms of. Sorry about that, guys. If there's a weird little pause there, we did then we ran out of disk space for a second for the Zoom recording. But continuing, hopefully that should look fine though on the I just remembered for the YouTube video, which means that's gonna be a fun edit of 2 video files I'll have to do then for that. It should be hard. It's just like connecting them, whatever. What we were talking about though was the I think the raid still.
Yeah, I think you moved on to the exotic from the raid.
Yeah, no, I talked about that already. I think we were just it's fine. It's yeah. So we finished really talking about the raid itself. There was another activity though called preservation, which also happens in the raid, which I guess one last thing actually about the raid I just remembered. You will also see a giant worm in there, which is really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And it's actually the mother of the 5 worm gods. Not one of the 5 worm gods, but their mother. And Rolk's just like, yeah, I'm using you as a power source and shit.
Yeah, that's the most insane shit to find out in the lore, that like Rolk and the Witness basically like found and used the giant worm.
I think her name is Scylla. I don't remember though.
Yeah, and like made a pact with like the mother of the worms to be like, hey, we could protect your babies. Just make a pact with us forever and ever.
Yeah, I mean, Rolk basically beats the shit out of the worm and does this, and she has the 5 kids, and then they use the 5 kids to their advantage. Yeah. And then like that's how they plan to use. That's how we saw that whole thing of like, we will trick Savathun and Sathona, and she'll do all that shit. So it's like a really cool reveal for that, where it's like, oh, here's the mother. It's like a whole. You have the 3 sisters, then you have the 5 worm gods, then you have this worm god that's the mother, and then you have Rolk and the Witness, and you're just like,
the fact that like Savathun and her sisters were tricked, and that like the Hive is like not even a major villain technically. They're like the foot soldiers of the main bad guy. Yeah. They're the puppets.
It's a whole fucking thing. It's crazy. But
shit's getting serious now, boys.
Yeah. And preservation is you're running through pretty much part of the raid area. And what it does is it gives you, the pinnacle and everything else, but you're going through it and kind of just not really puzzle solving or anything. It's just a fun run through, and you kind of get all the collectibles of like hearing Rolk talk and just talk about everything. And you also can do this in the raid. That's the cool thing, because it's the same location. You can kind of figure out how you want to do everything, which the raid also has a puzzle that you have to like be in this room with all the symbols and shoot certain things, melee certain things, even potentially grenade certain things to unlock more lore. And you could do like 1 per run, I think. And it's like a whole thing, but I think there's like 10 in all. I want to say it's like 5 in the second area where you just find them lying around, and then 5, each one is like a puzzle. So it takes you like 5 runs to get them all and whatnot. I still actually am missing like 3, I think. I want to say I've gotten like 2 of the puzzle and then the 5 in that second half. But preservation's like this easy ass thing. It's just long, because that whole like, oh, travel in the little like transport ship thing that's like floating above the ground. You have to do that whole thing from the raid, but you're basically like running either solo or like trio as a fire team or something, going through that. And it just takes some time, but it's an easy thing you just run through. Next up though is the investigation board, which is a whole set of like just to-do list missions. Did you end up finishing it?
I think I was last working on the like very last thing, which was like you need to attune a certain amount of weapons, and I think I'm like really close to it, but I still haven't finished it.
Yeah, some of them you can do at the same time, but some are like, oh, sheep weapons. Some are like, oh, go hunt Scorn specific scorn for something in like this specific area in the Witch Queen area. And when you finish all of them, it ends with an exotic mission that you do, if I remember correctly, where you get a glaive depending on your hunter class, like what class you are. And if I'm like a hunter, I get a specific glaive that it's I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the Edge of Concurrence, which is really cool. And each glaive is different, just like the swords are, like Quick Fang and Crown Splitter and all those ones. But these are exotic glaives. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I think either you have to do investigation board with every single character or all three characters to get all three glaives, because, you know, one is for Titan, one is for Warlock and stuff.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember if this is true, but if you unlock it with one character, the other two are actually a lot easier to get. I just don't remember the alternative way that you can do to get them, so you don't have to do all of the investigation board quests again on another character, because it does take a good amount of time. But it's also one of those things where the only thing you're doing,
maybe the last one would be easiest to do, because like I think are the weapons attuned account wide?
Your weapons,
yeah. Okay, then you basically wouldn't have to do that one, which is the one that takes the longest.
Maybe. I don't know if that'll work. I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't tested it. I haven't tried with like Warlock or Titan yet to see if it automatically crosses over or not. But at least with my hunter, I got it done. The glaive is cool. It actually works really well. I think, you know, it's just like with the swords, certain glaives are better than others. I don't remember if the hunter one is supposed to be the best one or not, but I do know people try to get whichever one they can. And I think the glaives are still locked to whatever class they come out of. So like the hunter glaive only works with the hunter and whatnot, and vice versa with the Warlock and Titan. I mean, that's how it was with the swords. You can't use Quick Fang with a Titan or Warlock, just like you can't use Crown Splitter with a hunter and things like that. But overall, I do like the investigation board mission. It's a fun time and everything else. And I don't remember. I think we talked about we did talk about the Wormy mission last time, I believe. We talked about Parasite.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So we don't have to talk about that exotic, but we can kind of just like run through the exotics real fast besides that. And the only other ones, I think we talked about Parasite, we've talked about Collective Obligation, which is the raid weapon. We've talked about the three glaives. The only two I think are actually three, are Dead Messenger, which is a whole quest line as well. The cool thing with that one, this is the seasonal exotic. So this is what you get from the Season of the Risen. And it is you know how you fight the Cabal Colossus and it has the giant chain gun, and it also shoots missiles at you? This is that gun, just a smaller version. So you just start shooting. It's like it's kind of like Sweet Business a bit, where it takes a second to load up and then all of a sudden you start firing and it's a machine gun, but it's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And when you build up enough kills and stuff with like kind of like
if you get a stack of 20 of those rockets, it does so much
it shoots all those rockets out. So it's a really cool way they've been like kind of starting to do now, where they're like, oh hey, we're gonna turn certain like enemy weapons into Guardian sized versions, and you can utilize those. And Grand Overture is a really fucking cool way they've it's Grand Overture, sorry, the machine gun. That's the Season of the Risen one. There's also Dead Messenger, which I don't remember. That's a grenade launcher. I don't remember what the quest entails for that you have to do for that one, but there's a whole quest for it. Dead Messenger is a cool grenade launcher. I don't remember anything specific about it that was like really worth talking about, but Grand Overture, like I said, that machine gun is really fucking cool that you can do it like a Colossus. And then there's Osteostriga, which is kind of like the season pass unlock weapon.
Yeah, it's like a homing poison submachine gun.
Yes, it's like if Thorn had there's actually a whole bunch of lore where Striga is actually made by, I think it was made by a tower scientist who was researching Thorn and succumbed to Thorn's darkness, and she went insane and then created Striga. But yeah, Striga is like the Thorn's little sister that's fucking insane also. And that is a really awesome SMG. The catalyst you get from you masterwork it by getting like the Astria to a certain level, and when you reshape it, that reshaping it and getting the correct stuff is how you make the masterwork for the gun. Which I do like that, instead of having to go through like, oh, kill all these things, instead of having to do all that, all you got to do is reshape it, and then
that's not too bad.
The masterwork is unlocked. That I really like that aspect.
And it gives you like a reason to use the gun for a while to level it up so that you can reshape it.
Even then, that gun is honestly so fun to use after. And it's great in PvE. It's great in PvP. Like, you can kill people in Crucible with that, no problem.
The fact that it has homing poison shots, and I think if you get enough shots on someone, they explode in poison, hitting other things around them. Like, it makes it so useful for PvE.
Yeah, very much so. There's other weapons, in this season or expansion and everything else, but I think the ones that I really liked were probably the bow that came with Season of the Risen. There were multiple auto rifles. They had SMGs, everything else. Just trying to remember the key ones that I really enjoyed a lot. Honestly, I think it was the bow, though. The Risen bow is really cool. And the whole thing too is like, you have to shape the seasonal weapons too, besides just the expansion ones. And the seasonal ones, like, you at least get like a weekly free attuned one, so you can get closer to shaping it. You just need to make sure you do the activity, I think, or do like playlist stuff to get like kind of like the currency buildup. But I'm pretty sure you get it from going through the chests of the PsyOp Legends, which I guess we'll talk about now. The last thing we got here is, which, you see how we blasted through that? We're already an hour in, only an hour in.
Yeah.
And we pretty much finished all the Witch Queen stuff plus 30th anniversary. But that's also, like I said, we don't have Andreas with us, and he always brings up really good talking points too. So that is a minus, but whatever. If anything too, we might have a shorter episode today, unless we want to add more stuff onto it, but we'll see what happens really there. Season of the Risen, though, it was really cool. I think it was also very short compared to other seasons at the same time. It was probably the shortest season.
Felt like it.
It was like 6 weeks worth of story or something like that, and then the rest is just kind of like, well, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the expansion season, and whatever.
I think one of the reasons why we held off on talking about it last time was because we weren't sure if there would be like one last
time,
or like one last thing at the end of the season, and there just wasn't.
Yes, so which is why I was so prepared. I'm like, oh, part 2, we can do Season of the Risen. Like, that's for sure going to be in the part 2 portion, and we'll end with it. And then, it was only 6 weeks long, and we're like, all right, I guess that's it. Because I think when you look at the seasonal challenges, there's 10 weeks worth, and the seasons themselves are usually around 12 weeks. So like, you kind of get like 2 extra weeks to do mop up and whatnot. And I think we're on like week 8 now.
Oh my God.
In this season. James,
I need to get back at it.
You probably
gotta stop playing like Cyberpunk and stuff.
I don't believe in you. You gotta prove it to me. Prove me wrong. Show me you could do stuff in Destiny. Or I have to drag you out and be like, hey, let's play this. I think we've done one hunt night so far.
No, this, like, I want to get back to playing Hunt, but like this last week in particular has just been like super exhausting. So like every day at the end of the day, I was like, should I reach out to play Hunt? Like, no, I'll just watch like one episode of something and then I
just see you all the time just playing Cyberpunk. I've
been trying to chip away at it. Like
on Steam, it's like just playing Cyberpunk. I'm like, I'm right here. I'm right.
Dude, it literally took me like a week to get through like the maybe 2-hour intro of that game.
I still haven't. I'll play that game eventually. I still got to play Outer Worlds and some other shit. So Season of the Risen, it's pretty much like concurrent with Witch Queen, where you have Ikora and Eris and them doing all this stuff with Savathun, and at the same time there's the Risen, basically Savathun's people outside of her throne world that are doing shit, and that's where Zavala, Keitel, Crow, and Saladin come in, and they're like, oh, we'll take care of this. And you're pretty much having to go through the EDZ, Cosmodrome, and the Moon in 3 areas and capture the Lucent Brood for one of Keitel's scions to kind of like interrogate. And the story gets crazy where I think it's like pretty much 6 weeks, 3 weeks of like go to one of each of these places, and then 3 weeks of go to these places again. But now it's the legend version of that activity, which is called PsyOps Battlegrounds. And if you guys remember, during Season of the Chosen, you had Battlegrounds, and it's like, oh shit, it's like long ass strikes that you're getting exhausted from doing over and over. And now they're in the strike playlist, and you're like, fuck. But PsyOps versions are shorter. It feels much more story oriented as well. It just feels better too. And it's crazy because you're fighting like the boss, and then the boss will run away at the end, which the boss is, one of the 3 like Lucent Brood. It's like the first one I think is the I think the Hunter one, and it's like the Hunter Acolyte, and then it's gonna be the Hive Knight, or the Knight Titan, and then the Warlock's Witch that you have to go through, and the Warlock Witch I think is the last one. But as you're going through it all, like you're hearing Crow kind of question what we're doing, because of like, oh, this is right or wrong, like in basically putting these Lucent Brood into like kind of like a stasis, and having the Scion go into their minds and kind of like go through everything, and it like results in like Crow killing the Scion.
Like accidentally, but he literally was like, he's like, well, I just wanted to turn off the machine. I didn't think it would kill him.
Yeah, he just really wasn't thinking right. And then like, this is right after all that shit from Season of the Chosen, where he finds out he's also Uldren. And
he's Saladin, like really not dealing with that like guilt well.
And Keitel being like, yo, I'm gonna kill you. And Saladin being like, take my life instead. And she basically makes him instead what do you call it?
Volus?
No, it was a Primus or something. I forget.
Right. Like he's basically now Saladin is like one of Keitel's generals.
He like basically already worked his way up. He's
right.
He ends up Saladin is now serving Keitel.
And I love how there's like a audio log where he's apparently doing like an Iron Banner for the Cabal now.
Yes, the Cabal of an Iron Banner. He's risen in the ranks, and it's like a whole thing. And it's interesting because we basically have like an ambassador of sorts with the Cabal now within. And it's kind of what Keitel always wanted, the whole thing of like, I want Zavala in my war council. Now she has Saladin war council, and like Saladin's the guy that taught Zavala. So it's like a whole thing there. And it's interesting because you also see Saladin's overall story come to a head, where at first you're like, oh, you're just an old guy that doesn't know what he's doing. And then you're like, oh, he was right. He's very experienced. And,
Yeah, dude, the
holy shit.
The animated cutscene of like him explaining to Crow why like letting something slide now could be disastrous in the future. And it's like he tells the story about like that one villager that he saved or whatever, and then she came back and became like an even worse warlord than the people that he murdered to save her.
In his name though too, like she is
and that too. And she was like, I am an Iron Lord just like you. And like, no.
It's actually kind of like the Batman, where it's like, who are you? I'm vengeance. And he's like, oh fuck. It was like that whole thing. But overall, like the story was very short. I wasn't expecting that, but it was cool. It had progress, and I liked like kind of what it tells, especially. And I think it's okay to have the season story shorter if it's in the expansion season. Like if they're sharing the same season, then I get it. If it's not, then I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Because I don't know if how long the season of the Haunted is currently. I'll find out soon enough, because I'm only like, I think 2 weeks in or whatever. But otherwise, the activity South's Battlegrounds I think is really cool. You're going through multiple areas. They're talking to you as you're going through it. It's kind of like the same thing as the last few seasons, where each activity you hear certain perspectives talking about what's going on, and it even like progresses. Like even when the story ends in like the 6 weeks are done, if you go back and keep playing, you'll get different audio that takes place afterwards, and it's Saladin already as Keitel's like war council people. And it's really cool how like that all just gets talked about. And I really do like how those in activity dialogues will evolve over time, and you'll still get the older ones, and then you'll get the newer ones. And you can kind of already like you pretty much figure it out on your own. You're like, oh, this is taking place before this happens, or this takes place after everything already is done. And yeah, it's just really enjoyable with that. Anything else with Season of the Risen? I'm trying to think if there's other shit with it besides that activity. I don't think there was, but the weapons, like I said, are really cool. They're all pretty much Keitel themed, like they're all blue, like the Cabal blue that we have. Talked about the exotic already for it, but yeah, it's cool. And I will say this is actually the best part is when you're going through the EDZ Cosmodrome and the moon. They really change it. Like they actually change the layouts of everything and really add stuff in. It's like, oh, there's dead guardians in the EDZ that the Lucent Brood drained their light of and stuff. There's cool little areas that we've actually haven't seen or redesigned for it. And there's extra decor and shit that you're like, oh my God, this is really fucking cool when you're going through. So they really did a cool thing of like these designs of these areas that it's like, oh, cool, we're going to get this, but only for this year, for the remainder of this expansion. And I do appreciate that they did that. And I really like the layout of it. And it is something I'm going to keep playing because I haven't finished shaping all of the Risen weapons. And because of that, I need to get more stuff for those weekly free attuned versions, but also doing that activities where you get the drops. You also have to check to see what week it is, because like depending on the week will determine which drops are coming out potentially that you can receive. So you know, that way you're not wasting time and trying to get a weapon you already have pretty much shaped, and you're just getting attunements of that now, and you're like, well, I didn't need this really, but okay, great. I think there's 6 weapons in total. I want to say I've shaped probably 2 of them so far. And I'm close to like shaping the rest, unlessing like 1 to 2 of each potentially or something like that. But yeah, it's a whole process, but once you get it down, it's cool. And I think that's everything I want to say, honestly. And I guess moving kind of into what we're doing now. Yeah, James, have you played any of the current season, which is called Season of the Haunted? Have you played it?
No, I'll get to it. Probably instead of getting into more hunts this week, I should probably play some Destiny instead.
More hunt. You haven't done any.
I know, no. Like
I think
like
you
I
mean
said,
probably instead of playing Cyberpunk and all these other games.
Yeah, I think like the reason why this last week I played like literally 10 to 20 minutes of Cyberpunk a night was just because
Hey, that's all you got to play?
Yeah, I'll do like
Oh,
this last week has been like fucking nuts. So,
okay.
or I don't know, unless I have also been like not going to bed when I should. So I've been like sleep deprived.
I gotcha.
So maybe I've been playing like half an hour to an hour of Cyberpunk and just like I shouldn't be. But
I gotcha.
It's one of those things where I'm like, if I play Hunt, that's gonna be like at least a couple 15 to 20 minute games. But like, I don't know. For whatever reason, it's like when I don't have a lot of time, I'm just like, I'd rather play something for like single player that I could just stop at any time.
Yeah.
But hopefully this next week will be not as crazy, and either I can play a little bit of Hunt, or like I just said, I should probably get onto Destiny before the season ends.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, I have gotten, I want to say 2 weeks worth into the story of Season of the Haunted. I don't really talk about it yet, but it's pretty fucking interesting. There's a whole new area because the Leviathan is basically back to a certain extent.
Interesting.
I won't say any more of that because of all the shit, but there's basically there's like a public event stuff. There's like not really a new group activity. There's just like public events in this new location. There's a dungeon that I actually haven't really gone through myself. I did once, but we never finished it because it was near the beginning of the season. And I need to still go through it. And then also apparently, yeah, now do the fucking legendary version or whatever. And then there's story specific missions that you do now that are, I think you could do trio, or like I'm saying trio now because I played so much fucking Hunt. I'm not saying fire team anymore practically. And it's like destroyed my Destiny vocabulary at this point. But it seems like a cool season. I think a lot of people though don't like certain aspects of the new location, but the story is really cool from what I've heard. I personally, the reason I haven't done more than just 2 weeks worth of story and like kind of trying to get through, I've been slowly starting to do the seasonal challenges, like, oh, go to the moon and kill people with this type of weapon, but also do public events and stuff. And same thing with the throne world and whatnot. Is I think I put so much time into Season of the Lost and especially also the Witch Queen, and which I didn't even finish everything in the Witch Queen, like all the random side stuff, lore and whatnot. I'm still missing shaping weapons and stuff for both the season and the expansion from that time. But for the I think it all finally added up, especially getting all the gildings and seals and triumphs and everything. I destinied myself out. I was fatigued, and I still am to an extent where I'm like, I'm tired. I need a break. And I told my clan, I told everyone, and I'm trying to get back into it now, but I'm basically like, I'm not going to do gildings for a while. I'm going to keep that away and just work on other stuff. That way I can also get back to my backlog and everything else.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the gildings are the biggest thing that'll be a time sink. Whereas I'm like, I can do everything that I'd get my money's worth from the season pass, which is basically, okay, do your season pass tree, do the seasonal challenges for all those rewards, do the story and stuff, get all the weapons and everything else you'd get from the season and everything else. Like, I'll do the seals, but I just won't do the gildings for the repeatable gildings and whatnot. Otherwise, the reason I haven't really been playing much is because I've been playing a fuck ton of Hunt with people that are on a lot more than I expected. And also Cycle the Frontier, which is a Tarkov-like game that feels like it's like if Hunt and Tarkov had a baby. It's the Cycle Frontier, and I will actually be talking about that at a certain point. I would say in the next probably couple months. I'll have a bunch to say. That'll be like a main topic for the show for sure. But it'll be like, cool, we have a game to talk about besides just a bunch of fucking movies and shows nonstop. But these two games, Hunt and Cycle, have been taking. It's funny because it's like, oh, Destiny is the reason I have a backlog. And now I'm like, well, Hunt and Reason are the thing, or Hunt and Cycle are the reasons I'm not playing Destiny, which is also why I'm not playing my backlog, because of none of the.
There's so many layers.
Yeah, there's an extra layer now, and I'm just like, I need to stop playing these solo and only play those with other people so I can get back to Destiny, so I can get back to playing like I was gonna play Injustice 2 next. I was so excited to just like have 2 little games of Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat campaigns to be like, cool, I did these 2 in a week, I'm done. On to like fucking Until Dawn and like Outer Worlds and stuff. That's all I want is like 3 little games done. And I'm like, I can't stop playing these multiplayer oriented games that have no endpoint at all. You just keep playing and keep playing and keep playing. The worst part is, guys, well, 1, I have to teach James Hunt, but 2, there's a Hunt fucking event that's going to basically start near the end of the month on like the 26th or something. So I'm just like, oh, this is the one thing I didn't want to happen, because once that event starts, I won't even be playing Cycle. I'll just be playing Hunt, trying to knock out that fucking, like the Hunt events are crazy because like, you know, you have a season pass in Destiny, you have a season pass in Cycle, you have a season pass in Call of Duty or whatever, in Apex and Fortnite, whatever, all those games. Hunt doesn't have a season pass, but when its event comes up, the event is basically a season pass. During that little event, there's that full season pass tree that you have to fill out in like 4 weeks or less or something. It's usually like a month-long event. And you're like, okay, well, time to grind in that little month for that entire fucking tree. And it is a lot. Yeah. So that's kind of what's been going on, at least with all the games and shit, and why you know, we'll talk about Season of the Haunted in due time, and maybe James will have opinions on Grasp of Avarice and Duality and Ballad of the Disciple. You, because you've you've at least done Deepstone and Deepstone Crypt and Vault of Glass, right?
No.
What raids for this fucking game have you done?
Like literally the old ones that aren't there anymore.
Oh, wait, you haven't even done Garden of Salvation?
No, I did do that one a while ago, but I never finished it. That was the one where like I did LFG for that one, and it was like literally one of the worst experiences I've ever. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had with a group, and I was just like, I'll get back to that later. Just never did.
What's horrible is the fact that I'm like, oh, you know what? I can get my clan to help you and we can all jump in and do these raids. At the same time, me, and Andreas said we would go play and show you Grasp of Avarice.
Yeah.
And that never happened because we're here 3 months later and we never did that. And you still haven't played Grasp either. And I'm just like, oh my God, there's so much.
Nah, I need to stop trying to like, this is gonna sound stupid, but I need to stop trying to play other games and just like dedicate myself to Destiny again for a bit just to like at least play these things.
Yeah, it's a fun whole thing. But I think that's everything really. That's the whole update. We won't do any backlog stuff today just because this is so game centric that we don't really need to throw in something else. But next, we do have at least 1 week planned out. Next week will be the Marvel week, another Marvel episode. Yay! We will have
There's so much Marvel stuff happening all the time now.
Yeah. And I've already hammered it down. There's no escape unless they bow out at the last minute. I don't know. But Ryan from Across the Bifrost and also Brandon from Apollo City Comics, the one that's on Sidewatch with me, are both going to come on, and all four of us are going to talk about Thor: Love and Thunder and Miss Marvel. And I think there's gonna be a lot to talk about because not only we're going to talk about the movie and show, and like we normally do with these Disney Plus Marvel shows and Marvel movies and whatnot, but I do want to get a little deeper now and ask certain questions like the format, the style of 6 episodes for a Disney Plus show, kind of get into the format of how these movies are doing, how these Marvel shows are doing, since we have these extra people here. So it's going to get kind of deeper in that sense. So for sure, only expect those 2 things. I doubt we'll talk news or anything else. It's just going to be that stuff. And if we can, I haven't asked everyone yet. I'm still trying to get things hammered down the week after that. Potentially, could be our anime episode where we're going to talk Spy X Family, Communicate, and maybe Ranking of Kings. But I have my friend Chris Schneider who should be able to come on. I've been wanting to have him on basically because Andreas won't be on. We'll have Chris, and Chris is one of Andreas's and I's respective, I guess, one of our respective friends. So he'll be on, and I'm trying to see if Momo can because she also has a wedding coming up very soon in like less than 2 months. So I want to see if she still has time to come on to this or if it's like a no-go. Because that's a whole thing, and I have to actually get ready for that wedding too because I need to find out some things. But so those are the next few episodes we've got. Like I said though, besides that, we'll have a Disney episode with like 4 Disney movies in that. I'll talk Cycle Frontier, and once I get those fighting games done, we can talk about those. And we have other shows coming up now that are going on. Westworld's happening right now. What We Do in the Shadows is back. Primal is actually about to be back. Season 2 of Primal, which I'm really excited about. The Gendy Taranovsky animated like caveman and dinosaur show. That's really fucking awesome.
Damn, I love that show. I can't wait for more.
Yeah, that's gonna be really fucking cool. And I figure, you know what, we could probably talk about it. I haven't watched it yet. I don't know if you started it, but the Netflix Resident Evil show.
Yeah, I've heard terrible shit so far.
I know. I want to check it out though because of the cast itself. At least is like good.
Yeah, I love Lance Reddick.
Yeah,
so I'll give it a shot for him. But
yeah, I'm imagining it's probably like 8 episodes or 6 or something. But we'll see. We'll knock it out soon enough. But we've got still a ton to talk about and still a backlog to get through. So there's still tons to get through there. And hopefully I'll make some progress on other things this week to have for us like TikTok and whatnot, but no promises, but I think I can get some of that done and you'll start seeing that churn out this week potentially. Now that less chaotic things are happening, no COVID, no more travel, kind of settling back in and whatnot and getting back to the desk, back to the computer, getting shit done again. Not hunt, but actual other shit that's not games. So yeah. Okay, guys, if you want to follow us, you can on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Sutro Sidetalk. If you are listening to this on whatever platform, if you can subscribe, that would be fantastic. If it's Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. That would really help us out. If it's Spotify, if you can rate us. And if it is YouTube, give us a like besides subscribing. That'll help us out a lot. And also you could follow James at InvaderJim124, and you could follow me at GoGoComzilla, both on Twitter. And we will catch you guys next week with a bunch of Marvel shit, and we'll see how much fun that's going to be. So long.
Thanks for listening.